Hello, and welcome to episode number 32 of the TEW 2020 Challenge Run. This is going to be the second episode of Raw for the week 2 of July as we begin, and what am I saying? The second episode of Raw for the month of July as we continue the build to the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view at the end of the month for Raw. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the show.
I won't be break, I'm going away. Every moment's one more chance to stand up or get in the...
This did pretty good. Show opens with a Johnny Gargano promo. He comes up with Candice LeRae and with Murphy, who is the new Mr. Money in the Bank. He says that he and Candice joined the Church of Orange because Johnny sees a lot of himself in Seth, and he can think of no better man to help guide him to success on Monday Night Raw. Oh, it says Seth takes the mic, and I kept him off screen because I forgot he was in this promo, but apparently Seth takes the mic and says that he proved that the Church is stronger than ever now, that Murphy and Gargano see eye to eye, and the Street Profits come out, and they say that the Church made a mistake targeting them, as Murphy and Johnny may be on the same page, but Dawkins and Ford, they're basically family, and that bond is stronger than whatever it is that bonds Seth's little crew. Gargano says he can think of no better way to make his official Raw debut than by shutting one of their mouths right now, and it is Angelo Dawkins who accepts as we get into a match. Johnny Gargano defeats Angelo Dawkins in a 64 by submission with a Croston Crab. He gets a 67, and Dawkins gets a 46. So yeah, Johnny Gargano promo saying he joined the Church because he sort of sees himself in Seth Rollins. He can think of no better man to guide him to success here on Monday Night Raw than the Monday Night Messiah, and he proves that by defeating Angelo Dawkins in the opening match. Backstage, we cut to backstage, and Paul Heyman's there, and he's stopped by Samoa Joe. Joe says that, just like with Lesnar and McIntyre from before Money in the Bank, he can't afford to have Brock Lesnar in the building tonight, as he doesn't trust them not to make a mess of the place. Heyman kicks off. He's like, "I don't like the way you're running the show, Joe. You're trying to stop Brock Lesnar from being Brock Lesnar." Joe reminds Heyman that last time Lesnar was here, he put his hands on Joe just for doing his job and officiating a contract signing. And for Lesnar's sake, he doesn't want to have to step in and stop him himself, or else he won't make it to Great Balls of Fire. So Joe sort of cementing his authority here, saying, no, we can't have Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley because they went at each other and they tried to destroy the arena. We do not want that again after he did it with Drew McIntyre. And it's for Lesnar's own sake that he's not being allowed into the building because Joe will choke him out if he steps out of line. Nice to be able to have a GM that can threaten to physical harm, because that will sort of stop people from doing it. Whereas if you've got like Jonathan Coachman saying it, they're like, okay mate, I'll just keep doing it, I'll kick your ass. But Joe is a very imposing GM, and just why I like having him in the role. Ozzy Mike just got a quick backstage promo talking about how they won the belts of Vengeance, and last week they defended them again against the Street Profits, and how there's no team on Monday Night Raw that appears to be ready to step up to the challenge of Ozzy Might. Bianca Belair and Natalya have a match, and Natalya wins it with a kiss of death in 6 minutes. She gets a 37, Natty a 40. They don't click, but there's only like 2 people that I like having to plug into job on this show, and Natalya is one of them, and Nia Jax is the other. Nia was already booked tonight, so Natty had to step in here, even though I knew they didn't click. But Bianca gets a nice win. Backstage, R-Truth is running away from a parade of jobbers with his 24/7 title, and he runs backstage, he runs into some office and just slams the door shut. And we turn around and we see that John Laurinaitis is in that office, and he's drinking a cup of coffee or whatever, and he orders Truth to get out. And Truth goes to open the door to get out, but Laurinaitis rolls him up and wins the 24/7 title, shouts his people power, and sticks his finger up in the air, and he drives away on his little scooter through the door as Truth chases after him. Backstage, Asuka goes up to Kairi, who is still sad after losing the tag titles. Asuka says that Kairi is still one half of the Kabuki Warriors, one of the greatest women on Raw, and she can't lose that fire. The Iconics come up and mock Kairi and Asuka, saying that when they are champions, they had the fire to maintain it. And when they beat the Kabukis tonight, they will prove that they are still the greatest tag team here on Raw. So the Iconics sort of saying, like, well, when we lost them titles, we didn't let it get to our heads. We sort of stayed iconic and didn't sort of sit here and whinge like Kyrie's doing. And when we beat you tonight, we'll prove that we still have that fire. And that match goes 11 minutes 19, and it is the Iconics who defeat the Kabuki Warriors. Kyrie, of course, not in her right frame of mind. She takes the pinfall from Peyton. 44 for Peyton, 45 for Billy, 54 for Kyrie, 73 carrying by Asuka. And Kyrie causes her team to lose here tonight in a 66, I didn't just realise, which is pretty good for the match between these two teams. So I clicked there, I didn't. Zelina, Garza and Andrade promo. Garza is very happy that he has a title shot at Great Balls of Fire. And Zelina's like, it's perfect, the plan hasn't changed. But since the triple threat match is no DQ, Escobar can join in, and the three of you can take out Drew McIntyre. And then when the time comes, Angel, you can let Andrade pin you, and Andrade will become WWE Champion. Simple plan. And we always have insurance. If you go into business for yourself, then understood. And Garza's like, okay. Then Zelina's phone rings, and she's like, speak of the devil. Obviously referring to Escobar, who's on the phone. And she answers the phone and starts talking to the man. When Escobar himself walks into frame, and Garza and Andrade sort of look at him all confused. Then Zelina, they're like, wait, if you're here, then who is she talking to? And she ends the conversation, and then she hangs up the phone, turns around and sees Escobar there. She's like, oh good, I'm glad you're here. Because now you can team with Andrade in the main event tonight against Drew McIntyre and Isaiah Swerve Scott. So apparently there's another man that Zelina has called for backup in this plan to make Andrade the WWE Champion. 66 match, Rey Mysterio and Akam. Rey Mysterio gets the win in 12:23 with the 619. Just needed to give Rey a win because he's been taking a lot of losses recently. And he's sort of getting involved in this Church of Rollins storyline, which is cemented after the match. Seth Rollins comes out onto the ramp and he eviscerates Akam. He slaps him a couple of times and says, no, you go back in that ring and you finish the job. And Akam goes in there and he delivers a powerbomb to Rey Mysterio. And then Seth Rollins gets into the ring himself and delivers a curb stomp to Rey Mysterio, laying out the masked man as the two of them stand tall. From their brief interaction backstage last week, we got this tag team match. It's the Peak of Physique against the Path of the Dragon. It is Humberto and Tozawa who win. Carrillo pins Riddick Moss with the moonsault. Moss gets a 34, 43 for Tony Nese, 49 for both Tozawa and Carrillo. And the match gets 50. Overall, not bad. A little 1 week segment, and then next week match. Little blow off. John Laurinaitis is still scooting down the hallway with his 24/7 title on his lap when all of a sudden he crashes into a fucking box backstage, one of the little boxes they have sitting backstage, that R-Truth is pushed in his way. R-Truth then pulls him out of the buggy, pins him, and gets his baby back. So it all ends well for R-Truth again, who I believe is now like a 41-time champion. Somewhere in the 40s. Here's Nia Jax. She gets beat by Liv Morgan in 4:52. Liv gets a 43, Nia gets a 39. Not much to say here, just generic Nia Jax loss. After the match, though, Candice LeRae jumps into the ring and she lays out Liv Morgan. And then she's followed by Ruby Riott, who gets into the ring and she starts grabbing at Liv's hair, screaming at her that she got lucky and that Ruby's finally come to collect that debt. And she picks her up and lays her out of a Riott kick as the two pledge to the Messiah, etc., etc. Hands over heart, hand in the air. Cult vibe. But they've laid out Liv Morgan after last week. Seth Rollins was like, hey, you're going to let Liv just wander around after she beat you and you're not going to try and get revenge on her? That's sort of not for the greater good, Ruby. But here we are. She looking like she's going to come and try and get her win over Liv. Shayna Baszler has an interview. She says she's heard what Charlotte had to say last week, but she's got everything twisted in her precious little brain. She says she didn't make NXT relevant. NXT was relevant when Shayna was there and was the champion on top of the division for over 400 days. Something Charlotte knows nothing about. because she wins titles 10 times but loses them shortly after 10 times. Times are changing, and soon Charlotte will learn that she was only the queen because the Queen of Spades wasn't around. See you next week. Woo, and she'd mock the woo like a dickhead and leave. So some harsh words there, saying Charlotte said she went to NXT to make it relevant because that's what she does, and Shayna's like, well, bitch, it's relevant when I hold the title for 400 odd days, but not when you hold it for like 10 and then drop it just to try and pad your stats up. Charlotte then gets a match. She beats Xia Brookside in 10 minutes with a natural selection. 61 rated match, 69 for Charlotte, 29 for Xia. Pretty much does what it says on the tin. Aleister Black cuts an 84 rated promo. Fucking hell. He says that he used a lot of himself in Damian Priest, but the difference is Priest has lost sight of what makes a man truly good or evil, and at Great Balls of Fire, he will make Priest pay for what he did at Vengeance, and he'll regret making an enemy out of Aleister Black. So for someone like Black, he got to keep his promo short and sweet. He's not one for the long monologue, so he's just saying, bitch, I kind of see why you're doing it, because I kind of see myself in you, but you're going to regret making an enemy out of me, and I'm going to kick your ass at Great Balls of Fire. VIP Nation cut a promo next. MVP says Lashley accepts Lesnar's challenge to a match at Great Balls of Fire, but he has some business to attend to, because at Vengeance he wanted to kick someone's ass before Brock Lesnar came out and sort of, he wouldn't say made him run away, but before MVP decided to retreat for Lesnar's own safety. And now he's still in that mood to kick ass right now, so whoever wants a fight, meet him in that ring. It's Ricochet who obliges, and he defeats MVP in 12:28 with a 6:30, gets a 63, 66 for Ricochet, MVP 52. He has a hot new move, apparently, which he uses to bust out to beat MVP here on Raw. After the match, Apollo and Shelton jump on him, continue to beat Ricochet into the mat. That's when Cedric comes out and evens the odds, and the two flippy boys send the members of VIP Nation packing. Kevin Owens interview. He puts over Oney Lorcan and his incredible performance last week. Then Lana walks into frame, laughing. She thanks Owens for teaching a lesson to that son of a bitch, Oney Lorcan, and maybe now he'll think twice before getting involved in her business. Owens says that this has nothing to do with her, and he'd be willing to give Oney another shot for the US title. Then Lana's like, bitch, you can't give him another shot. He uppercutted me in the jaw, rah. And she just starts screaming as Kev would slowly back away as he just leaves Lana having a fit in camera view. 67 rated main event, which I'm hoping will be fine, because last week's got 66 and we still ended up having a good show. With a team of Angel Garza and Andrade defeat Drew McIntyre and Swerve, when, oh my god, Andrade pins the WWE Champion because Zelina Vega got involved. 80 for Andrade, 81 for Drew, 55 for Garza, 49 for Scott. One final segment, just celebrating Andrade has pinned the WWE Champion. If that happens at Great Balls of Fire, Maggle, we will have a new WWE Champion, and his name will be Andrade. 73, first time we've lost Pop in a while, but yeah, I didn't really put on the strongest main event, especially because I had to keep Drew. Well, I didn't have to keep Drew strong because I asked him before the match, do you want to put Andrade over? And he said okay. But for the sake of his popularity, I did keep him strong. So I felt obliged to do that. And it had Swerve in it, who's an unimportant. Anyway, still not a bad show, but what matters more than what the game thought is what you thought of the show. So do let me know in the comments what you thought. And I'll see you next time for SmackDown. See you then.